classification of civil services. Okay, so there it can be 3 types: all India services, okay, and central services, and state administrative services. So other than that, state, we know all about that, but if we are little confused in the 2 type of services, so let's understand what are these. These are conducted by UPSC, okay. Or do we have any other past experience of bureaucracy structure in India? So this is the first time during the Britishers we have got the bureaucratic structure. Do we have any other idea before colonial period? Did we have any other bureaucratic structure or bureaucracy there? What is the oldest document we have regarding the bureaucratic structure, or we can say like administrative structure? During the Rig-Vedic period, we do not have that structure because people were directly involved. Like Praja, like that was Sabha and Samiti was there, the group of people itself, but we do not have specific departments. Remember that? Those who have done with NCERT, we did not have any department, right? People are involved in various activities, right? But during the modern period, remember, modern period, in which book we have got this bureaucratic structure, that is Arthashastra. Remember, so in Arthashastra, Kautilya has described about various departments, right? We are not going to discuss in detail. We just are having just a simple glimpse that in the past also we had some this kind of administrative departments, not the modern bureaucratic structure. Are you getting the point? Means a different department for foreign relations, a different department for revenue, different department for spying, right? Espionage. So in Arthashastra, Kautilya described about various departments. This is actually a administrative system, right? After that, from modern period, do you remember anything else? इसके बाद तो start हो गया फिर. Every ruler, be Guptas or Mauryans or Delhi, in fact in Delhi Sultanate, or in fact during Shivaji also. Have you heard about Ashtapradhan of Shivaji? Okay, so there were different departments dealing with different course of actions, right? So we had, if you look at the historical evolution of civil services, you'll find that during modern administration, Chanakya's Arthashastra reveals that the civil servants were recruited on the basis of merit. So yesterday we talked about what are the various bases of recruitment of anyone. Like in administration, we can have selection through merit also. We can have selection through arbitrary appointment also. We can have selection through lucky draw also. Okay, that was the also process took during the Delhi Sultanate period. Okay. Like we can have 5 names and suddenly we move towards some name. And another what is the important process of selection? That is, how do we select our MPs? Through election also, okay, through the voting also. So there are various method of selection, right? So now in the Mughal period also there were staff officers who took care of the land revenue system. On what was the land revenue system called? During Mughal period. Have you heard about the name Todarmal? Todarmal initiated what? देखो अभी थोड़ा रिवाइज करना होगा हिस्ट्री को, है ना? हाँ, मनसबदारी system was there, right? Yes, no issue. You should revise history also. So now coming to the British rule, during British rule, when company was ruling, right? When company was ruling through their employees, okay, then that was known as the covenant civil services. It means those employees who are actually functioning over the company's products and policies, also having the task of civil services, and those who are recruited under the umbrella of covenant civil services, these members had to sign covenants with the company's board, right? So they were actually before 1858. Who was the actual ruler of in India? East India Company. Okay, after 1858, that was the British government which ruled over India on British territory, right? Now coming to the post of bureaucratic structures, like so first started district collector. That was the first post actually that was made by Warren Hastings, right? Earlier what was happening during the, do you remember that battle of Plassey and Buxar? So after the battle of Plassey and Buxar, the dual system was evolved, right, in which administration was taken care by, yes, not governor general, administration was taken care by the Nawab itself. Nawab की responsibility थी, right, and revenue system was controlled by Britishers. Is it clear? That Diwani system was there, and after that, to collect that revenue, that the district collector post was evolved, right, through these services. Some officer was appointed to collect the revenue, right? Though before that, Indian was employed, like Diwan was employed to collect the revenue, but now these are the British officers who were employed to collect the revenue. Later, after district collector, they were also employed with the function of magisterial functions, right? They were involved in the justice also, right? So after district collector post, it was created by Warren Hastings 1771 for the purpose of land revenue collection, and later on they were also responsible for judicial functioning, and it is the Lord Cornwallis which actually separated the judiciary from the executive. Okay, I think you should change your place because we will actually use this PPT most of the time during the class. Okay, so whatever written on the bottom of the PPT will not get it, right? So better to change that place. That will be beneficial for you to look at this. So is it visible now? Entire bottom line also? Right. So Lord Cornwallis separated the judiciary from the executive. So this is the question for PT also. Who has separated the judiciary from the revenue? That was Lord Cornwallis. He introduced various other reforms also. That is why he was known as the father of civil services. And the separation was again restored by Lord William Bentinck. Okay. The Charter Act of 1853 recommended the replacement of patronage based, like that was actually based upon arbitrary appointment. That is called patronage based. समझ में नहीं आ रहा है? खुशबू कुछ क्या कहीं confusion है? ये last वाला ना patronage based. Patronage based means the patron. What is the meaning of patron? Patron means कहीं ना कहीं से कुछ ना कुछ privileges हैं. ठीक है? If some employees have certain privileges over their functioning from the higher authority, अगर हायर अथॉरिटी से आपके पास कुछ प्रिविलेजेस हैं, या फिर आप इफ यू आर गेटिंग सम सपोर्ट, फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सपोर्ट, ओके, so that is called patronage. Okay, and on the basis of patronage, some officials were appointed on the basis of patronage to particular post. Suppose out of 10 people, I find that these 5 people are very much suitable for administrative functions, right? So I'll appoint those rather than checking on the merit on the basis of open competition exam. So patronage based means arbitrary appointment. Are you getting about? Yesterday we talked about arbitrary appointment. That was actually that arbitrary appointment. There was no particular criteria of appointment. Is it clear? भेज दिया, ठीक है, district collector, right? अभी क्या इसके बाद the Charter Act of 1853 actually recommended the replacement of the patronage based recruitment of civil servant by a merit based system, and merit based system would be based upon the exams, competitive exams. Is it clear? शिष्य समझ में आ रहा है? नहीं आ रहा है? नहीं, अच्छा, okay, okay, yes. Then while revising, if you are confused and try to remembering those whatever you learned in history, don't get into that right now, right? You will be confused what was there, right? Okay, you are remembering that article from Politic DPSPs. Okay, fine, very good. So our Indian Civil Services set up in 1911. Indian Civil Services, because before that 1853 actually that provides open competition. That it does not mean that Indian was also allowed, right, in that competitive exams. But after 1911, Indian Civil Services began to take place in India. Before that, after 1854, which provide open competition. Initially, that was not open for Indian, right? But later on, actually, Indian also participated in this exam, but higher positions were not offered to Indians, right? So there are two types of services under this charter: covenant services and non-covenant services. Covenant services are higher post, that is reserved for Britishers, and lower post, non-covenant post, that is for Indians, right? So Satyendrath Tagore was the first IAS officer. Actually, he got the position of non-covenant services, right? Now coming to the Indian civil services, which are set up now. This exam is going to happen in India itself, and first exam was held in where? Prayagraj, right? Is it mentioned over here? Yes. This is Allahabad. This is now Prayagraj. Okay. So was the first place where the examination took place, right? In Uttar Pradesh. Okay. So in India, after the setup of Indian civil services in 1911, right? So the 1922 onwards, that is in India, exam started taking place. Now coming to what happened next. After that, Government of India Act 1919. See, when we talk about any act or any charter, we are actually restricted towards the bureaucratic structure only. So through this act, whatever other things will be happen, okay, we are not going to discuss on that part, right? Because it's not a history or political part. We're discussing bureaucratic structure. So Government of India Act 1919 divided the imperial services, because we were colony. That is why it is called imperial services. Imperialism was there at that time. So imperial services into all India services and central services. What does that mean? Difference between all India services and central services? We will understand that later in the slides, right? But for the sake of this slide only, I just make you understand that actually when we talk about the federal structure, because the Act 1919, at that time we have provincial governments also and central government also. So for central government purposes, those employees who were directly reporting to central government, right? For that there were central services, okay? And for those employees who were actually working for both central government and state government, for that is all India services. There were division, and we have borrowed that division also, right? So this act also provided the establishment of Public Service Commission. So in 1926, whatever you call UPSC right now, UPSC was established through this act in 1926, right? So the establishment of Public Service Commission in India, and it was established in 1926 after recommendation of Lee Commission. So which of the following organization was established on Lee Commission of options? UPSC, CAG, and all these things, right? So you can identify your answer, right? Now the Government of India Act 1935, what changes it made? It envisaged a Public Service Commission for the federation and a provincial Public Service Commission. It means there must be some exclusive service for states with which they are not responsible for central government. Those who belong to different states, they know that they had some specific state provincial services. Okay. In Bihar, BPSC is there, UPPCS is there, Rajasthan, RA is there, MPPCS is there. In Telangana, what can be called as? APPSC, Andhra Pradesh APPSC, then Telangana provincial CPSC must be there, right? So this is how actually state government works, state government functions according to their act of specific, that is actually set up the state provincial civil services, right? Now see, होते थे, लेकिन क्या होते थे? That was all India services, not for exclusively states. ठीक है? There were two services, all India services and central services. It means both the kind of bureaucrats, right, under central services and all India services, both were reporting central government, right? But now when we talk about the provincial Public Service Commission, it means a Public Service Commission meant for UP or Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan. They are not liable to report central government. आपके स्टेट के एम्प्लॉइज वॉट एवर द स्टेट यू बिलोंग टू, देखिए उसका जो एग्जाम होता है दे आर नॉट एक्चुअली, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हैज नो कंट्रोल ओवर दोज एम्प्लॉइज in terms of transfer, salary structure and all these things, right? Their salaries are charged upon the Constitution of India. Is it clear? So let's understand what actually the structure of civil services post independence, right? So Constituent Assembly decided to continue to run the Indian administration with the help of Indian civil services after independence, because we do not have any other option to run administrative machinery. Okay, and since we have under the experience of bureaucratic, colonial bureaucratic structure, and also we have borrowed so many clauses from the Government of India Act 1935. So also since bureaucracy is also very much adhere to these clauses and had also the experience to work on this bureaucratic structure, so it's better to adopt new structure than what we have experience also, and this experience has very less faults than adopting new structure, right? Though it is not flaw free, okay, but it's better to adopt this structure in a modified way. Okay, we did not adopt this structure as it is, right? जैसे हमने अभी borrowed so many clauses from the various constitution of various nations, right? But we did not adopt any of the constitution as it is, right? We actually customize it according to our need. Is it clear for everyone? ठीक है, polity पढ़ाओगे तो you must have aware about that. This it is not exactly copy paste. Okay, that is why it is called borrowed constitution, not copied constitution. Is it clear? So we actually adopted from Britishers and reorganized as two-tier system. Why it is two-tier system? Because at the local self-governance we do not have any separate bureaucratic structure, right? That is why it is two-tier system. And it should after independence we had only two-tier the level of governments, okay, central government and state government. Now we have local self-governance also, but we do not have any separate structure of government. We have a structure of governance but not government. Is it clear? So at district level or the local other than state level we do not have any zones at the third tier, right? That is why we have two-tier system only of civil services, right? So the central government controlled the all India services. Now coming to the next slide, one second, that give you more clarity. Okay, so if we divide this civil services, classification of civil services, okay, so there it can be three types: all India services, okay, and central services and state administrative services. So other than that, state we know all about that, but if we are little confused in the two type of services, so let's understand what are these. These are conducted by UPSC. Okay, so when we talk about central services, only A and Group A and Group B type of services are conducted by UPSC. There are various other authorities also, institutions also, which recruits Group C and D services, right? Means Group C and D services means those services which actually dealing with the field work or customer services work, like directly. Okay, and those who are high, those posts who are which are at higher authorities, okay, they are dealt by UPSC, right? जैसे SSC का एग्जाम होता है, SSC के एग्जाम्स में कई पोस्ट ऐसी होती हैं जो हायर पोस्ट होती है, जैसे SSC की when we talk about SSC examination and in revenue department, okay, so what is the highest post of revenue department? Highest post of revenue department, that is commissioner. Okay, so commissioner is appointed by UPSC. It is Group A and B type of services, right? And other than that, okay, those who are excise officers, so excise officers are recruited by SSC because they are Group C and D officers. Are you getting that point? Okay, so, हाँ देखो पहले पूरा बता देता हूँ, फिर कंफ्यूजन दूर हो जाएगी. अभी स्टार्ट हुआ है तो देयर मस्ट बी लॉट ऑफ कंफ्यूजन, राइट? मैं पूरा बता देंगे तो सारी जो दिमाग में कंफ्यूजन है वो क्लियर हो जाएंगे. ठीक है, तो अब देखो क्या है कि अब वन सेकेंड, नाउ यूपीएससी when we talk about all India services, so UPSC conduct Group A and B services, right? So those services, IAS, IPS and IFOS. IFOS is what? Indian Forest Services. This is conducted by UPSC. And why they are called All India Services? Because IAS, IPS and IFOS, actually these three services are controlled by both state government and central government. That is why they are called All India Services. Other than these services, IFS, IRS and other services and other group A and B services which are conducted by UPSC. Okay. अदर दैट SSC है, रेलवे है, ठीक है. तो whatever these other institutions, they conduct those services as well as UPSC. The authority of these employees falls under central government. Okay, they do not report or the liability of their services, their terms and conditions or transfers or reporting anything. They are actually under central services. There is no role of state government into their functioning. Is it clear? Now coming to the third services, state administrative services, right? So sometime we see that state government also recruits some officers for the same services for what central government works, right? But in that case, those services would fall under the state list. Are you getting that point? So excise, if excise or production of any particular product falls under state list, and those officers who are appointed or recruited through state provincial services, they will not report to central government. They are recruited by state governments and work under the authority of state government only.